guys, welcome. This is Jared Goring. I'm going to talk to you about my case study for week 6 here, Benjamin versus the state of New York. A few of the facts of the case is Thomas Benjamin, an 11-age boy, was attending a hockey game at the University of New York at Oswego, where he was injured by a puck while watching the competition. He alleged that the state failed to provide adequate protection for the safety of spectators seated in the arena, and so now Thomas seeks compensation for his injuries and his medical bills. Romney Arena, just to kind of give you an overview of what the hockey rink looks like, it's an oblong shaped rink that ran lengthwise in a north-south direction. It was enclosed by a dasher board about 3.5 feet in height, and to the rear of each goal along the sidelines there was a protective fence that kind of enclosed the hockey rink. However, the fence was not continuous. In front of each player's bench, a distance of approximately about 20 feet, no protective fencing had been added to help cover those spectators there watching the hockey game. Thomas and his brothers and other friends had gone to the arena that evening, had paid to see a college hockey game being played, and they had taken their seats in the bleachers behind the south goal. Once the first game had ended, they got up, went to the concession stand, came back, and decided that they need to view the remainder of the game from the sidelines. They found their seats in the second or third row of the bleachers and then sat down. Okay, when they were seated behind the second and third row of those bleachers, the protective fence, the 10 to 15 feet north of the nearest player's bench, was not covering their protection while viewing this college hockey game. While there, an errant puck found its way through the open area in front of the player's bench, passed behind the protective fence that was up to the right of them, and then struck Thomas on the left side of the forehead. Okay, now the arguments on both sides of the case is the state of New York, like any other owner or occupier of the land, is under a duty to exercise reasonable care under the circumstances to prevent injury to those who come to watch games played at their facilities. The state argues that the due care required only to provide protective seating behind the goal where the danger was the greatest. However, they are arguing that Thomas should have remained in his seat with his friends and brother and been in a protected seat behind the goal, and by choosing to do otherwise, he assumed the risk of being hit by the puck. The state's reasoning is somewhat flawed, however, since it undertook to provide spectators with protected seating along the sidelines as well. In determining whether the state fulfilled its duty here, the court is somewhat guided kind of by the uncontradicted testimony of the claimant's expert, who testifies that there is a structural defect in the fencing in the board that enclosed the rink. It is usual and customary practice to protect the area around the player's bench. Absent such protection, it was the usual and customary practice to restrict seating to an area without the zone of danger. For example, putting up a sign that says no seating here, and have that area roped off if there was a risk for being hit by an errant puck. Since neither course of action was chosen, he opined that the state failed to provide Thomas with the adequate protection that evening. Okay, the court findings, when both sides were viewing the evidence, the court finds that the absence of a fence in front of the player's bench constituted a dangerous condition that presented a foreseeable risk of injury to those spectators, including Thomas and his friends and his brother. Therefore, the court finds that the failure of the state to provide the safety of this in the protected seating area constituted negligence, and that such negligence was a substantial factor in bringing about Thomas's injury. In addition, the court finds that the accident and the injuries sustained by Thomas when he took his seat in the protected area on the sidelines, that he had every right to assume that reasonable care had been taken care of for his safety. Although he admits to being aware that the area in front of the player's bench was unprotected, it cannot be said that a reasonably prudent person of Thomas's years of age, intelligence, degree of development would have fully appreciated the danger and therefore could have been said to assume the risk. When struck, Thomas felt very numb. He did not, however, lose consciousness. He was admitted first aid at the facility and then later taken to the nearest hospital. He was examined and then discharged that following morning. He awoke feeling nauseous and began to vomit. His parents immediately contacted a pediatrician who advised them to be taken to the Upstate Medical Facility in Syracuse, New York. He then got x-rays and the studies of his skull were ordered. Therefore, the examination revealed a depression in the left frontal lobe of his skull. The films confirm that Thomas sustained, a result of being struck by a hockey puck, a 4 millimeter depressed skull fracture to the left orbital on the frontal part of his skull. Okay, the implications for this athletic and activity department are as follows. Following his discharge, Thomas spent the next 2 weeks with bed rest. He then was allowed to get out of bed for brief periods of time. At the end of the month, he did return to school under the watchful eye. During the period that he was home, he did complain of some pain, and it was noted that he was having difficulty with his equilibrium. So once returning to school for some PE classes, he did wear a protective helmet, and he would have a paraprofessional with him at all times, kind of monitoring his actions. He complained of headaches, and all disability continued for almost about a year, except for the surgical scar measuring about 4 inches in length. Just outside of his hairline, there are no permanent remembrance or residuals from this injury. In view of the foregoing, the court finds that Thomas had been damaged in the sum of about $24,000, and the award was made accordingly in this case, which the state of New York had the implication to make that payment. Thank you.